Stop it. I love and admire what you have done. It was brilliant and resourceful and so flawlessly executed. I am in awe of you. You should be proud of yourself for standing up to them the way that you did. You're a fighter, and only fighters survive in this world. Yo, what's going down, everybody out there in YouTube land? Triple Beast is back once again in a haunted basement studio, and I am so fucking excited to be down here, and I hope you are too. So let's get ready for Slasher Ripper episode 7. The great Great Rondeau is dreaming of Terrence Crenshaw, and all of a sudden his neck turns around in a 360 and it's Margaret. You did this to me. I didn't kill you. Then who's rotting in my coffin? It was a dream. Slasher. Boom! Cut opening credits scene. The detective now shows up to Israel's body. How did the widow get in here? The death of the doctor hangs on both of our heads. Cut to Basil, and he's in the jail cell, and he's saying, if you don't get your superintendent, if he doesn't come to his fucking senses, I will see that he is hanged. The deputy says, you are free to go, Master Garvey. Go ahead and put a hole in this whole Margaret Mahar business he's got you tied to. How did you know about that? Does everybody? Oh, he hasn't made a secret of it, sir. That little fuck is dragging my name through the mud while the fucking widow is getting closer and closer. He's paving her way with his incompetency. Your boss couldn't catch a fucking cold if it shat in his fucking mouth. He's fucking useless. The great Great Rondeau is now awakened by Shanika. We've done so much together. Yeah, too much. Things have gone too far, and that's why I'm afraid for my life. Everyone around us is dying. Why should I be any different? Well, because it's you, Shanika. Do you think I would let anything happen to you to hurt you? You practically called it down on us. And then Shanika leaves. Verdi now is happy to see Mr. Basil as he gets home from jail, and he wants to fuck, but she says no. You gotta respect her rights to her wishes to be wed before she gives her intimacy to anybody. Now, Detective Kenneth goes to Mrs. Simcoe, and she's at the pastor's bedside because he was stabbed in the last issue. And he says, there has been another message from the widow. And this message reads, innocent or guilty, that is the question. But how do you answer when they're known for deception? In your heart of hearts, you know what's true. You played your part. I'm coming for you. These are terrifying, Mrs. Simcoe says. Detectives, yes, they are. They're rather obvious. She says the first part of the riddle almost sounds like it is directed at you. You're the one determining the guilty and the innocent. And the detective says, yes, well, that may be true. However, the widow had a clear chance to kill me, and yet she didn't. I could bear anyone else. I care about getting harmed. It seems that I am safe. The last people left in the photo are George, Viviana, and Basil. Yes, and George obviously is a musician and a master of deception and trickery. He did have an alibi the night that Eddie died, however. An alibi who might have lied? An alibi who now is dead. But Terrence Crenshaw wasn't killed by the widow. He was killed by one of the victims, Salome. We discovered blood and the murder weapon in his private room at the Queen's chamber. Basil Garvey's common knowledge is he has a secret web of businesses and influences. Yes, unfortunately, he does. He could be the most deceptive. George announces to buy a ticket to one of his shows to be tricked by him, whereabouts Basil does not. Against your will, he usually is the determined. A conundrum, Viviana, she is deceptive. If you like clothes, jewelry, and the way she dresses will bankrupt most. She is not an exactly strong motivation to murder half of Toronto's society. Is there anyone that we miss? Could the widow, for example, be someone who is working at that party and not in the photo? Maybe the photographer, Venita Botticelli, she was at the party surely. And one of their staff? Then you must ask the Botticellis. Both of whom can we agree are deceptive. Basil and Verdi are now walking in the streets. You are making me the most proudest man in town, my dear. Oh, you're making me blush. I wish that I could make your blood rush to your cheeks regularly. It suits you so. I can't take all these compliments. Venita looks up and she sees them walking and she says, "Look who's out for a promenade. Basil, can I bend your ear for a brief ghastly talk about some particulates?" "Verdi, I won't be a moment." "Will you cease this disgusting talk about Verdi immediately?" "I'll stop with your final payment." Viviana is now talking with Verdi. "What do you think of my latest ensembles?" "They would look fetching on a younger woman." "Oh, piss posh. Your jealousy blazes so brightly. I feel I must open my new cascade against it. I bought it pink, so it reminded me of your twarded hymen of yours. The sale of it paid for this. Oh, look. Looks like your nether region. Before, all tiny, and then now, a big old circus. Still, the world would rather that than your sinister spitful. In fact, you and Benita had done me a favor. I am jubilee to be in the arm of such a man. I don't need sparkling jewelry to distract from the lines on my face. Basil wants me so much that he paid for me. And you, dear sister, are designed to marry a farmer or really anyone who loves pigs. Please do enjoy your new marriage with that blue beard. Eventually, he will get bored of you, just like the 3 women he married before. Oh, you didn't know that? And like them, he will kick you to the curb. And when that happens, dear sister, Benita and I will be there to swoop you up and take care of their next of kin. But you will be easily declared as mentally unfit. And then we will have your hymen surgery restored so we can haul you out again and again and again like the trash that you are. George is digging up Margaret's body at her gravesite. He's saying, I'm gonna get your bones to make my spell. And then you hear Margaret whispering, You did this to me, Georgie. You did this to me, Georgie. I rid myself of this once and for all. And then he breaks the coffin open and then he yells, No! Basil now is showing Verdi's the backstage of George's performances. It is very exciting to see the great George Rondeau's magic devices. Nothing is off limits to you. And this device is used to saw a woman in half? Yes, the trick that frightened you. He makes a great show of it, how he locks a woman in here so she cannot escape. But what the audience doesn't know is there's this keyhole where a lower chamber is where she can hide her body. Are you allowed to tell me his secrets? My dear, when you're with me, the world will open up to you. Oh, there he is, the great George Rondeau. You're filthy, man. What have you been cleaning chimneys all night? I was at the cemetery paying respects to an old friend of ours. Why don't you investigate the props a little bit further, Verdi, while I go talk to George about the show tonight? Margaret, her body is gone. It wasn't there. You dug up her grave? Why? You don't know what I do. I had to see if she was there. Who would steal her? She probably dug herself up. And now she's running around. Her fucking ghost. Oh, you don't believe that rot? All because of my damned obsession with the dark arts and that horrid night. What have you been doing, George? You playing fast and loose with life and death again? I'm not anymore. You seized that weakness in me 12 years ago. And I have not done it since. But she still's going to make me pay. Grave robbers, sick fucking trophy hunters. The widow probably fucking dug up the grave herself to see you fucking running around like a scared little child. You have a fucking show to focus on, so you better get on that. Perform? I couldn't possibly. It's sold out, and I'm not giving the money back. So get your shit together. It's impossible. Shanika fled. I am without an assistant. Jesus Christ. Where did she go? Can you get her back? I can't. And then Verdi says, Couldn't my sister Venita take her place? Basil's like, No, no, no. She couldn't possibly. I'll be damned if I would let your sister on my stage. But Basil, I can't keep up this battle with them when I only live a street away. Well, that's a long-sighted view. She would be thrilled. And she knows the whole show. She's been to all of them. She saw you from Montreal to New York. She shared so many details of your show with me. She's obsessed with you and your act. I think I might be able to save the show and mend the family rift in one fell swoop. We are gathered here tonight for a show, but these are not the times for entertainments. I don't want to be Neo fiddling as Rome burns. So tonight we must do is a deadly ritual. But I tell you that these dark arts exact a cost. A cost we are seeing today in the form of a black spectra. known as the Widow. The Widow stalking our cities, killing and desecrating our friends and neighbors. And now we must cleanse our city of the violence that plagues us, and of the evil widow who holds us shaking in her grasp. She must be banished and sent back to the depths from which she came. You need not fear. I hold safeguard over our souls. I commune with they that may not be named, and within the regiment of the widow resides my new acolyte, Benita Botticelli. She gets into the box, and right before Benita is getting sawed in half, the widow shows up, and Detective Kenneth looks over and he sees her, and she sees him, and then they both run out of the theater, and they end up making it to a graveyard. And then now back at the theater, Benita is actually getting sawed in half, and she's yelling, "It hurts!" And blood is flying out of the box as Verdi looks on with a sick smile. Venita screams, comes to a stop as gallons of blood flow out of the box. And now back at the graveyard, the detective hits the widow in the wrist with his billy club, but she gets the upper hand on him once again, and she's holding the knife to his chest, and she grabs the billy club, and then she stands over him, and he looks up at her, and she looks down at him with the knife, and then she takes off and runs. Back at the theater, George is telling the crowd, "She is gone, my friends. The widow is dead. Her spell over us is over, and she has been vanquished back into hell." He opens up the box, and Benita's guts fall out of it. George looks at it as the crowd runs out of the theater. Viviana says, "How could you have done this to her?" "It should have not happened," George says. "How the hell could it have happened?" Basil says. "I've done it 100 times. And the detective walks up and he says, "I just heard what happened. She didn't slide her body into the secret chamber like we rehearsed." George says, "You shouldn't have done this trick. You're a monster," Viviana says to him. "She wanted to do it, this one most of all. Obviously, she wasn't ready. We rehearsed it 5 times." What? Kenneth says, and he looks. "It's the trap door." "Well, she couldn't get herself out," Viviana says. "No, I left it unlocked because I couldn't find my key." "Isn't that convenient? You invite my sister to be your assistant and then you kill her." "I didn't do this. Somebody else locked it." "Who has the key?" Kenneth says. "Only Shanika and myself." "Well, that must be her, that jealous bitch." No, she quit the show of her own violation. "The key is something I never misplace." Verdi looks over at the detective and at Viviana, and then Kenneth looks at Viviana's dress, and he pulls out a key, and he holds it up to George, and he says, "That's my key." "I never seen it before in my life," Viviana says. "Well, you're under arrest for the murder of your sister." "What? This is nonsense. I would never. George is going crazy, knocking everything over in the shrine. The widow appears behind him, and he slowly turns around and he sees her. And as she jumps on him, 12 years ago, George is choking Margaret, and she says, "I can't." "In the name of the all unholy, and offer this sacrifice, this martyr to transcend herself, to transfigure and open a crack, so I might see through, to which doesn't exist. She loses consciousness and then slowly awakens, and he starts to choke her again. Now, back at the shrine, the widow has George's neck wrapped around with a rope, and she's tightening it really hard. And he says, I can't. And she tightens it harder. And then he says, I deserve this. And with one final twist, snapping of his neck, the great George Rondeau is dead. Back at the police station, Kenneth is talking to Viviana, and she is saying, I didn't kill Benita. He says, we have multiple witnesses of your physical alteration with your sister. It was an argument. I wouldn't kill her. I'm not arresting you just for her death, but for every one of the widow's murders. That's insanity. Is it? You are one of the few people left in that infamous photo. You are known to whip your servants, and you've even bragged about it. You have to beat your servants every now and then. I wouldn't do that to anyone in our circle. Certainly not murder. Well, you left the theater just before the widow arrived. You don't understand. My sister was gouging me. Oh, your sister who is now dead? The one person who probably knew what you were doing? Was she going to reveal your secret? Doesn't mean I did it. We'll save it for the judge. Kenneth now goes to Regina Simcoe's, where she is at the pastor's bedside. I've arrested Viviana Botticelli for the widow murders. That doesn't make any sense. Viviana, is she even capable of that disturbing cruelty? That is that even possible? She orchestrated her sister's death at George Rondeau's magic show that night. In front of everyone? She rigged the sewing mechanism. Oh, I can't hear anymore. I've already heard tales about this. Poor old Dr. Israel, I can't even imagine. Has she confessed why she is doing this? The importance of that photo. What is it all about? No, not yet. I've learned that the devils, as Andrew would call them, they wear disguises. And I hope that I never understand the nightmares you must have, she says to him. None. Speaking of, are you planning on sleeping here tonight? I could bring you some blankets. Perhaps you trust the doctors have everything under control? You think I'm silly by staying here? I think you're a very kind and caring friend. And everything that I've seen of late, I couldn't find that more appealing. Well, Andrew's probably sick of me, and I suppose the news of the arrest. I think I would like to go home and try sleeping in my own bed. Perhaps if you could escort me? Of course. The house is empty. I can go look around and make sure that it's safe. Is that something that would ease your mind? I would be ever so glad. Okay, so he walks into Regina's house. And now Basil and Verdi are riding in the carriage. Why the silence all of a sudden? I don't think you quite understand how perceptive I am. You don't achieve my level of power without having an excellent eye for people and what they are capable of. I'm sure I don't know what you mean. I know what you did to both of your sisters. You rigged the box so Benita, and then you planted the key on Viviana so she would hang for it. I did. I planned it. I was still there from the theories of my passion. After everything they've done, it was a fancy, a nightmare. But to actually see it done, my sister ripped in two. Basil's like, yes. I'm a beast. Turn us around. I must go to the police and confess my crimes. Shh. You're not doing that. Your sisters were terrible, vicious women who hated you. But no one deserves what they sold you. They put it, I'm sorry, I have to say it out loud. They put your maidenhood on the common market. You had to do this. It was the only way. You wouldn't be plagued by them for your entire life. But what? Something so horrible? Something so violent? Stop it. I love it and admire you for what you have done. It was brilliant and resourceful with the flawless execution. I am in awe of you. You should be proud of yourself for standing up to them the way that you did. You are a fighter, and only fighters survive in this world. And now Mrs. Simcoe walks up to Kenneth and she kisses him. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm in a state. You must think that I'm so forward. He says, no, I am grateful, but I would never. But then they have sex. And then in his dreams, he is fighting the widow. And then you look and you see a bruise on Mrs. Simcoe's wrist. Cut credit scene. Boom. All right, man. My final thoughts on The Ripper episode 7 was pretty fucking exciting and pretty damn good. What they did with it, it went by so fast with the storylines because we're coming to an end. And when you're coming to an end of a story, it should fucking be, bam, right in your face. You're on a cliffhanger the whole time. And that's what they did. Fucking, yeah. So you tell me what you think in the comment section below of episode 7 and overall the series. I am still holding a 9 out of 10 out of this one, which means fucking awesome. Man, it is a really good horror series, and I'm so glad that we got this new season and it's coming to an end. Well, it already did because they dropped both episode 7 and 8. And yes, I did watch them both. So my next video will be the final. And I'm sure you already watched that one and you know who the Ripper is. And so my speculation video, I did call it as I did. I mean, if you want to go back and look at it, I'll leave it in the video at the end of this one. But before you leave, make sure you stab that like button with the sub, just like Michael. Haha. Laters.